Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Elisa Marie Designs. I'm Elisa Maria. Welcome back. If you're back, welcome. If you are new, as I am videotaping, I have a video dropping. Well, it's uploading. It's from yesterday, and I couldn't upload it yesterday, and you'll find out why when you watch it today. Okay, so there's that. It's more of a vlog than it is a video about diamond painting. Should have been, but you'll see. So you're gonna hear a lot of helicopters in the background. I can't do anything about that. The Eagles are back, and the whole town is painted witch green. It is so funny that the whole town is witch green. So I've been holding off showing you guys this little decor that I have, because I don't know. So sometimes things just happen for a reason. So I received this from Ren in the mail, and I thought it was so cute. Little ghost, little witch's hat. I'm like, oh my gosh, did he make this? And look at this. There's like a little slit here. I guess it's like a card holder. Can you see that? Can you see that little slit there? Well, I took this and I put it in my window. Part of my Christmas, part of my Halloween decoration, because it came separate like that, and I was like, oh, I guess that's like a little card holder for whatever it is that you're working on. I made this sweet little thing here, and I'm gonna put her in there because that's what I'm working on, right? I brought it upstairs, and I don't know. I was like looking at it and I'm saying, oh, this looks like a little slot. And I opened it up. I'm like, what? There is the official witch pen sitting in here. I put this in my window, like a decoration. And had it not been for Rich, I was watching his video and he said, thanks, Ren, for the pen. And I said, what? I didn't think that we were supposed to order these, because when these came on this scene from Diamond Pen Pal, Ren said, yeah, the hosts are forbidden to order these. And I just thought, well, they might not have enough blanks and you guys are to get it first. But every instinct in me was like, forbid. You know, I'm a little kid at heart, like a little brat, and I'm like, I don't know about that forbid thing. I had to tamp down that inner child that just wanted to go out and buy this, and that was why. It was because Ren got them for us, and he made this fabulous decoration. This will forever live in here, you know that, right? But I'm like, today is the perfect day to break this out. There was a reason why I was holding off showing you guys, and it's because the Eagles are here. So today you're an Eagles pen. You're an Eagles pen. I have to put little attachments on there, huh? And I love the flat edge. And let me tell you why, because I brought this up during the week when I was, I think maybe during the midnight hour, I was showing you guys my pens. I'm going to have my witch. I'm going to have this out. I'm going to have this out. I'm going to have my putty out. Where is everybody? Everybody's hiding from me. I'm going to have my release papers out. I'm going to have my witch out. Okay, my putty. And I was talking about the pens that I have, because I did diamond paint for 4 hours with my Leopard Leatherworks pen and had no problem. It was 4 hours later and I just was like, my hand is not cramping. I don't feel any pain in my wrist. I can go forever with this pen. I love it. But I was showing you guys, where is it? I was showing you guys a pen. Here it is. I have my little ledger on here. Ren prints out a piece of paper with your legend on there, and I just attached it to a little piece of construction paper. I bought this from Cat Tiered, I don't know how you say the name, and it rolled off my desk and it hit my tile floor and it broke. And I can't find this piece. I don't know where it shot to, but I glued this piece on and I glued this permanently in there because I love this pen. I think it's such a great pen, a light pen. But it broke. And so what I love about this pen is that it has a flat edge and it's not rolling anywhere. So I love that. And even when like I want to hold something down, like sometimes my plastic paper, I'm going to pin it back. Now my desk just exploded. So let's get the desk together with everything that we need. I'm using my Witch, my favorite Firefly. Here's my one that I bought with this pen from Leather Works a few years back for what was it, Drills and Chills. I have a piece of wax stuck at the back. Oh, the life of a creator. But it's my favorite, and so of course here's the Firefly Inferno right here. Let me put this, I think I'm going to take this placer off and put it in here. Now, I think I have placers downstairs. Of course they're downstairs, my single placers. Is that going to fit in there? Oh, I took the washi tape off and all. Okay, let's see. Will you just fit? Kinda. It's kind of tight enough that it might, but no, let's not chance it. Let's get the washi tape out. I don't want to use my Simply Gilded washi tape because it has a you know, it has a coating on it, and that gilded coating, I find that it makes it slippery, so I don't want to use that, even though this is our sponsor's washi tape. It's so beautiful. It's too beautiful to shove in a pen, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get some washi tape that I have out and open already in one of these contraptions that I have a bunch of stuff in for when I need something. By any chance, do I have a single placer in here? Oh, I have a 14 placer. Okay. No washi tape. Next drawer. See, I knew I had some washi tape around. There you go. I'll use this. Let me wrap this one and see if I get a better. I'm a sloppy wrapper. That's why I do it the other way. I try not to stab myself, as I often do. I stabbed myself yesterday. When I was doing an unboxing that didn't happen. You'll hear all about it. And then I just put it on top. And I go this way. Okay, I think you're in good and tight. I hope you are, because I got some strong glue dots. And they like to pop, 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 pop. I'm still laughing at the midnight live that I did, and you guys went to sleep to the popping sounds of a glue dot. It was so funny. All right, so I think we got the pen ready to go. Okay. I still think that's going to pop out, but I'm eager to try this. I'm eager to try this. Let's put you away. And I'll put my little card up here. I have a little one, but I think she's too small. Now you can't see her. I made my own little card there. There you go. I made my own little card right there. Okay, so let's put you here, my little witch. I'm not used to having so many things on my desk. It makes me a little crazy because I'm easily distracted. And then I have my drills. And then I have my tray and my pen. And I can put this one away. Now, how good is my putty in here? I think it needs to be changed. So, let me put that on the side. And I have my little, I'm not using this as a trash tray. I'm actually using this to hold my placers, and my rings are in there. So, that's what I'm using my little witch container for. Foofy saw these the other day and he just lost his mind. He was just like, he considers them infiltrators. So let me put this here. And where is my little lily pad? I can't do anything with my lily pad. I think I'm going to put new putty in here. They're in this big box. I need to like put them inside something. I don't like having this big box, or everything distracts me, and it's just like something that I don't need in my peripheral vision to disrupt me in any way. Like, you know, your eye just keeps going over to it. These are all blank, so let's get rid of this. And so what I am going to be doing is, because I just dropped a vlog, and I told you guys a bunch of stuff, and it was a crazy day. And I think what I'm going to be doing is recording this. Oh, see, he came off. I'm lucky I didn't stab myself, because that's the way it goes with me with these tweezers. These licensed to kill tweezers that you get from, who's this from? This might be Dreamer Designs, because that's all I really use. But both of them, they're just so sharp. I stabbed myself the other day while I was filming, and I had to stop filming, and I had to tend to, you know, the stab wound that I had on my hand. Okay. I guess you need more washi tape. Now, where did I put it? It's a pretty green too. It matches. See, I have those little kits that I used to buy from Temu, and they have little rubber bands in there. And the bands are what you use to, you know, make the end tighter. Oh, my hand hurts from that now. Going right in. Oh, there goes my back. Now, the first time I loaded this, but I have a nice little design in there. The first time I loaded this, I was like, oh, maybe I can use a little bit more. You don't need a little bit more. You don't need a little bit more. In fact, as flush as you can get it is just perfect, because then it starts to come off the side, and we don't want to get involved with all that. Okay, we got a pen ready. We got a bat with a hole in his wing. Let's put this away. Oh my God, the helicopter stopped. What happened? The game is not until 8:20. It's 2 more hours. And I was going to go out on my deck and read, because that's what I intend to do here. You're going to see me diamond painting. However, I am going to be quiet, because I'm going to do an overlay of me reading The Bad Seed, which you'll learn when if you watch my video that happens, that is dropping now. So, where do I want to begin? I think I want to begin. Now, you guys, did you notice what I did? Did you notice that I kind of snuck ahead a little bit, and I put the face in? And I think what I'm going to do is turn this around, because here's her little face. Because here I have this is all black, and it'll give me the opportunity to not have to worry about changing drills or making any other noise other than the snapping sound of the I keep calling the snapping sound of the glue dot. It sounds like a band. Okay, do you like my pen? I bought this just for my journal, for my Raven event that's coming up, for my journal. I love it. Okay, so I got a raven feather there. I got this here. Let's make sure that everybody gets there. All our sponsors are shown here. that I am working with. Little goodies from Wendy. Here we go. My tweezers there. I love this skull head. I love the it's just covering his eyes. Like, oh my god, what now? And then this is Sabrina's release paper from Bee's Crafty Corner. Simply Gilded. Beautiful washi tape. Here's the one I'm using, Little Haunted House. And what else is in here? Anything? And I'm gonna pull this back. And I don't want to work where this whole piece is off. I want to work right in this corner, maybe even work the crescent moon. So I'll move you guys closer. This is going to be my cover here, I guess. Let's move this here so you guys have a better view. And let's get to painting and enjoy the first chapter of The Bad Seed. Are you ready? I'm so ready. Me and the foofs, we're here by ourselves. So this is The Bad Seed by William March. And I will tell you that The Bad Seed, in its constant popularity, has been dramatized on stage, screen, and television. And I believe that the cast of the stage is the same cast in the movie. So, chapter 1. Later that summer, when Mrs. Penmark looked back and remembered, when she was caught up in despair so deep that she knew there was no way out, no solution whatever for the circumstances that encompassed her, it seemed to her that June 7th, the day of the Fern Grammar School picnic, was the day of her last happiness. For never since then had she known contentment or felt peace. The picnic was an annual traditional affair held on the beach and among the oaks of Benedict, the old Fern summer place at Pelican Bay. It was here that the impeccable Fern sisters had been born and had lived through their languid, eventless summers. They had refused to sell the old place and had kept it up faithfully as a gesture of love, even when necessity made them turn their townhouse into a school for the children of their friends. The picnic was always held on the first Saturday of June, since the eldest of the three sisters, Miss Octavia, was convinced, despite the occasions on which it had rained that particular day, and the picnic had to be held inside after all, that the first Saturday of June was invariably a fine one. When I was a little girl, as young as many of you are today, she would say each season to her pupils, we always planned a picnic at Benedict for the first Saturday of June. All of our relatives and friends came, some of whom we'd not seen for months. It was a sort of reunion, really, with laughter and surprises and gentle, happy, excited voices everywhere. Everyone had a happy, beautiful day. There was no dissension in those days. A quarrel was unknown in the society of the well-bred. A crossword never exchanged between ladies and gentlemen. My sisters and I remember those days with love and great longing. At this point, Miss Burgess Fern, the middle sister, the practical one who handled the business affairs of the school, said, "It was so much easier in those days, with a house full of servants and everybody helpful and anxious to please. Mother and some of the servants would drive down to Benedict a few days in advance of the picnic, sometimes as early as the 1st of June, when the season was officially open, although the established residents of the coast didn't consider the season really in swing until the day of our picnic. Benedict is such a beautiful spot," said Miss Claudia Fern. "Little Lost River bounds our property on the Gulf side and flows into the bay there. Miss Claudia taught art in the school, and automatically she added, "The landscape at that point reminds one so much of those charming river scenes by Bambois." Then, feeling that some of her pupils might not know who Bambois was, she went on, "For the sake of some of the younger groups, Bambois is a modern French primitive. Oh, he is so cunning in his artlessness, so right in his composition, and in the handling of green. You'll learn much about Bambois later on." It was from the Fern townhouse, the school itself, that the picnickers were to begin their long day of pleasure, and the parents of each pupil had been asked to have their particular child on the school lawn not later than 8 o'clock, when the chartered buses were scheduled to leave. Thus it was that Miss Christine Penmark, who disliked being late or keeping others waiting, set her clock for 6, which she felt will allow for her ordinary tasks of the morning, and for the remembrance of those last-minute hurried things which are so easily overlooked. She had impressed the hour on her mind, saying to herself as she fell asleep, "You will awake precisely at 6 o'clock, even if something happens to the alarm." But the alarm went off promptly, and, yawning a little, she sat up in bed. It was, she saw instantly, to be a beautiful day, the day Miss Octavia had promised. She pushed back her blonde, almost flaxen hair, and went at once to the bathroom, staring at herself in the mirror for a long moment, her toothbrush held languidly in her hand, as though she were not quite sure what she was to do with it. Her eyes were gray, wide-set, and serene, her skin tan and firm. She drew back her lips in that first tentative trial smile of the day, and standing thus in front of the mirror, she listened absently to the sounds outside of her window. An automobile starting in the distance, the twittering of sparrows in the live oaks that lined the quiet street, the sound of a child's voice raised suddenly and then hushed. Then, coming awake quickly, in possession once more of her usual energy, she bathed and dressed and went to her kitchen to begin breakfast. Later she went to her daughter's room to waken her. The room was empty, and it was so tidy that it gave the impression of not have been used for a long time. The bed was neatly remade, the dressing table immaculate, with each object in its accustomed place, turned at its usual angle. On the table near the window was one of the jigsaw puzzles that her daughter delighted in, a puzzle only half completed. Miss Penmark smiled to herself and went into the child's bathroom. The bathroom was as orderly as the bedroom had been, with the bath towels spread out precisely to dry. And Christine, seeing these things, laughed softly, thinking, "I never deserved such a capable child. When I was 8 years old, I doubt if I could do anything." She went into the wide, elaborate hall with its elegant, old-fashioned parquet floors of contrasting wood and called gaily, "Rhoda! Rhoda! Where are you, darling? Are you up and dressed so soon?" The child answered in her slow, cautious voice, as though speaking of words were a perilous thing to be debated. "Here I am," she said, "here, in the living room." When speaking of her daughter, the adjectives that others most often used were quaint, or modest, or old-fashioned, and Mrs. Penmark, standing in the doorway, smiled in agreement and wondered from what source the child had inherited her repose, her neatness, her cool self-sufficiency. She said, coming into the room, "Were you really able to comb and plait your hair without my helping you?" The child half turned so that her mother could inspect her hair, which was straight, fine spun, and of a dark, dull brown. Her hair was plaited precisely in 2 narrow braids, which were looped in the back into 2 thin hangman nooses, and were secured in turn with 2 small bows of ribbon. Miss Penmark examined the bows, but seeing they were compact and firmly tied, she brushed her lips over the child's brown bangs and said, "Breakfast will be ready in a moment. I think you'd better eat a good breakfast today, as there's nothing more uncertain about a picnic than the arrival of lunch." So this was the first thing that I saw in the book that was different. And what was different was that it was Rhoda that had the beautiful blonde, almost flaxen hair, and it was the mother, Christine, who had the mousy brown type of hair. So it's interesting that they transposed those two characteristics between mother and daughter for the movie. Rhoda sat down at the table, her face fixed in an expression of solemn innocence. Then she smiled at some secret thought of her own, and at once there was a shallow dimple in her left cheek. She lowered her chin and raised it thoughtfully. She smiled again, but very softly, an odd, hesitant smile that parted her lips this time and showed the small, natural gap between her front teeth. There was no gap in the movie. "I adore that little gap between dear Rhoda's teeth," Mrs. Monica Breedlove, who lived on the floor above, had said only the day before. "You know, Rhoda's such an outmoded little girl with her bangs and pigtails and that single dimple. She reminds me of the way children looked when my grandmother was young." Now, there was a colored print in my grandmother's house that I've always remembered. It was a little girl skating. Oh, such an immaculate, self-possessed little girl with flowing hair, striped stockings, laced boots, and a fur toque that matched a little fur muff. She was smiling as she skated, and there was a darling gap between her teeth. The more I think of it, the more the child reminds me of Rhoda. She had stopped talking suddenly, wondering if her affection for the little Penmark girl had somehow been determined by her reaction so many years ago to her grandmother's skating print. For Mrs. Breedlove denied the existence of meaningless thought. Everything she said, she maintained, no matter how casually, was related, was tied together, was part of a logical and quite comprehensible pattern if others could only find the clues or glimpse the design. She came to the conclusion that her admiration of the colored print was the genesis of her admiration for the child. There was no doubt about it, none at all. Then she remembered that her brother Emery, with whom she lived, loved the little girl quite as much as she did. Now, Emery's affection was certainly not the associative end result of an old lithograph, for he was 9 years younger than herself, and there was no reason whatsoever to assume that he had seen the old skating print. In fact, her grandmother had died, and her effects had been scattered 2 years before Emery was born, so it was very doubtful that, in other words, there was no reason to suppose. She waited, wondering if her system of associative wisdom were as effective as she had believed. Her brows puckered in perturbation. She had said these things and had thought these thoughts the morning before, while returning leisurely with Mrs. Penmark and her daughter from the closing exercises of the Fern School. There had been the customary recitations with the customary lapses of memory and the usual flow of tears, the fumbling application of parental handkerchiefs, the traditional caresses and words of comfort. Miss Burgess Fern, the middle one, had made her expected speech on honor and the need for fair play. There was a harp solo by Miss Fern herself, who had once studied in Rome. When these preliminaries were done with, and the chorus of children had sung the school song, the prizes for the different excellencies displayed were awarded. At the very end, the most important prize of all, in the minds of the pupils, was given. The gold medal awarded annually to the child who showed the greatest improvement in penmanship during the school year. The hallmark of a lady or a gentleman is the quality of his penmanship, Miss Octavia Fern said so often. The clarity, elegance, and refinement of one's penmanship establishes the true character and background of the individual when all other tests are inconclusive. Rhoda had wanted the penmanship medal from the first, and from the first she had thought that she would win it. She had practiced faithfully, the tip of her tongue protruding between her teeth, the pen clutched in her determined hand, but as it happened, the beautiful medal had gone not to herself, but to a thin, timid little boy named Claude Daigle, who was in her class and who was her age. When the exercises were over and the pupils and the parents were strolling under the live oaks of the Fern lawn, Miss Claudia came up, rested her hand on Rhoda's shoulder, and said, "You mustn't feel badly about not winning the medal, although I know how important these things are at your age. It was a very close race this year." Then turning to Mrs. Breedlove, she added, "Rhoda worked so hard. She labored so diligently to improve her penmanship. We all knew how badly she wanted the medal, and I, for one, was sure she'd win it. But our judges, who are entirely impartial, who don't even know the identity of the children whose work they inspected, decided that the little Daigle boy, while not writing the clear, neat hand that Rhoda used, did show the greatest improvement for the term. And improvement is what the medal is given for after all." Remembering these things of the day before, knowing how disappointed the child was, the reason for her quietness now, Christine said gaily, "You must have a perfectly wonderful day. When you're as old as I am, and perhaps have a little girl of your own who goes on school picnics, you can look back on today and remember it with pleasure." Rhoda sipped her orange juice, turning her mother's words over in her mind. Then, with no emotion in her voice, as though repeating a thing which did not really concern her, she said, "I don't see why Claude Daigle got the medal. It was mine. Everybody knew it was mine." Christine touched the child's cheek with her finger. "These things happen to us all the time," she said, "and when they do, we simply accept them. If I were you, I'd forget the whole thing." She drew the child's head towards her, and Rhoda submitted to the caress with that tolerant but withdrawn patience of the pet that can never be quite domesticated. Then, smoothing down her bangs, she impatiently pulled away from her mother. But feeling perhaps that she had been inconsiderate or unwise, she smiled her quick, placating smile, her pink, pointed tongue darting towards the glass. Christine laughed softly and said, "I know you don't like to have people paw at you. I'm sorry." "It was mine," said Rhoda stubbornly. "The medal was mine." Her round, light brown eyes were stretched and unyielding. "It was mine," she said. "The medal was mine." Christine sighed and went into the living room, and kneeling on the window seat, she looked back at the heavy, old-fashioned shutters, allowing the soft morning sunlight to flood the room. It was almost 7 o'clock, and the street was rapidly waking up. Old Mr. Middleton came onto his front porch, yawned, scratched his stomach, and, stooping cautiously, picked up the morning paper. The cooks for the Truby and the Cundall families, approaching from the opposite direction, nodded, raised their hands in greeting, and disappeared almost at the same instant around the corners of their respective houses. A half-grown girl with legs as shapeless and almost as thin as the lines in the child's drawing of a girl pulled her scarf more tightly about her head and ran for the bus with a clumsy, looping motion, her ankles turning inward a little like the ankles of an inexperienced skater. Mrs. Penmark, seeing these familiar things, turned back to her living room and began to straighten it up. When her husband's work had brought them to this particular town, they had looked forward to a house of their own. They spent their entire married life in apartments. But not having at once found what they wanted, they had taken another apartment after all, deciding vaguely to build later on. The apartment itself consisted of 3 floors of ponderous Victorian elegance. It was of red brick, and its turrets, oriel windows, spirals, and ornamental spouts balanced and matched one another in a sort of impressive architectural madness. It was set on a little natural hill, well back from the street, and it was banked with shrubs and flanked by a well-tended lawn. When the house was planned, the lot at the back had been bought as a playground for the children who might someday live in the apartment itself, and it had been turned into a sort of private park enclosed by a high brick wall. It was the playground rather than the big, inefficient apartment which had attracted the Penmarks to the place. The bell rang at that moment, and Christine went to answer it. It was Mrs. Monica Breedlove from the floor above, and she called out gaily, "I want to make sure that you hadn't overslept on such an important morning. I thought my brother Emery was coming along too, but he's still fast asleep. No power in the world can get him up before 8 o'clock, but he did open his eyes long enough to tell me that his car is parked in front of the building and to suggest we use it this morning. So I'm going to drive you and Rhoda to the Fern School if you haven't any objections. Anyway, it'll save you the trouble of getting your car out of the garage." Then turning to the child and tossing her head a little, she added, "I have 2 gifts for you, my darling. The first is from Emery. It's a pair of dark glasses with rhinestone decorations, and he says to tell you that it's intended to keep the sun out of those pretty brown eyes." The child moved quickly towards Miss Breedlove with the expression on her face which Christine had come to think of as Rhoda's acquisitive look. She stood silently while Mrs. Breedlove adjusted the glasses. Then turning, she examined herself in the mirror. Monica stood back, clasped her hands together, and cried out in an enraptured voice, "Now who is this glamorous Hollywood actress? Can it really be little Rhoda Penmark who lives with her delightful parents on the first floor of my apartment house? Is it possible that this lovely, sophisticated creature is little Rhoda Penmark that everybody loves and admires so greatly?" She paused for effect, and then continuing in a lower key, she went on, "And now for the second prize, which is from me." She took from her purse a gold heart with a finely wrought chain attached to it. She explained that the locket had been given to her when she too was 8, and it had waited all these years in her jewelry case for just this occasion. The locket had been a birthday present originally, and in one side of the heart there was set a garnet, which was her birthstone, since she had been born in January. At the first opportunity, she meant to take the locket to the jeweler and have the garnet taken out, and a turquoise, which is Rhoda's birthstone, put in instead. She planned, too, to have the locket cleaned and the little chain fixed. Yes, didn't seem to be as firm as it should be, which was hardly surprising when you considered that she, Mrs. Breedlove, had had the locket for more than 50 years. "Can I have both stones?" said Rhoda. "Can I have the little garnet, too?" Christine smiled, shook her head disapprovingly, and said, Rhoda, how can you say such a thing?" But Mrs. Breedlove went into peals of pleased, hysterical laughter. "But of course you may. Why, certainly, my dearest." She seated herself and went on, "How wonderful it is to meet such a natural little girl. Why, when I was given that same locket by my Uncle Thomas Lightfoot, I just stood tongue-tied in the parlor and twisted my plaid dress, a quivering little mass of anxiety and frustration." The child went to her, put her arms around her neck, and kissed her with an intensity that seemed to engage all of her consciousness. She laughed softly and rubbed her cheek against the cheek of the entranced woman. "Aunt Monica," she said in a sweet, shy voice, drawing the name out slowly, as though her mind could not bear to relinquish it. "Oh, Aunt Monica." Christine turned and went into the dining room. She thought, half amused, half concerned. What an actress Rhoda is. She knows exactly how to handle people when it's to her advantage to do so. When she returned to the living room, Mrs. Breedlove was inspecting the child's dress. You look like you're going to have a fashionable afternoon tea, not to a picnic at the beach, she said gaily. I know I'm behind the times, but I thought children wore coveralls and play suits to picnics. But you, my love, look like a princess in that red and white dotted Swiss dress you're wearing. Now tell me, aren't you afraid you'll get it dirty? Aren't you afraid you'll fall down and scuff those new shoes? She won't soil her dress, and she won't scuff her shoes, said Christine. She waited a moment as though debating with herself, and then added, Rhoda never gets anything dirty, although I don't know how she manages it. Then, seeing the question in Mrs. Breedlove's eyes, she said, I wanted her to dress like the other children, but she felt so strongly about it that, well, if she wanted to wear one of her best dresses, I didn't see any real objection. I don't like coveralls, said Rhoda in an earnest, hesitant voice. They're not... She waited as though unwilling to finish her sentence, and Mrs. Breedlove laughed with pleasure and said, You mean coveralls aren't quite ladylike, don't you, my darling? She embraced the tolerant child once more and said in a delighted voice, Oh, my old-fashioned little darling. Oh, my absolutely quaint little darling. Presently, when the preparation for departure was completed, Rhoda went to her bedroom to put her locket away for safekeeping. And as she stepped off the rug, her shoes made a sharp staccato sound on the hardwood floor. You sound like Mr. Fred Astaire tap-tapping up and down the stairs, said Mrs. Breedlove. What have you got on your shoes? Is this something entirely new? Is this something I haven't heard about? Rhoda returned, put one hand on Monica's shoulder for support, and stood obediently while Mrs. Breedlove lifted each of her feet to examine the new shoes. They were heavier than average, designed for the play of childhood, with thick leather heels which had been reinforced with metal cleats in the shape of half moons. In explanation, Rhoda said, I run over my heels all the time, so Mother had those iron pieces put on this pair so they'd last longer. Don't you think that was such a good idea? It was Rhoda's suggestion, not mine, said Christine. I can't take any credit, I'm afraid. You know how vague and impractical I am most of the time. It would never have occurred to me at all. It was Rhoda's idea entirely. I think they're nice, said Rhoda solemnly. They save money. Oh, my little sweetheart, said Monica in delight. Oh, my thrifty little housewife. She embraced the child exuberantly and added, What are we going to do with her, Christine? Tell me, what are we going to do with this remarkable little creature? Later, when they came out of the apartment house, they paused on the marble steps that led to the foyer. For Leroy Jessup, the janitor, was hosing down the walk that ran from the house to the street beyond. He worked with that aggrieved persistence, as though calling on heaven to witness the injustice done to him, which the sullen everywhere bring to their trivial tasks. And as he worked, his lips moved in unison with his hands to shape his petulant thoughts for his pleasure, for his mind rehearsed eternally the inequities that had been forced upon him, inequities which he must endure in silence, since he was one of the underprivileged ones of the world, the unfortunate son of an unfortunate sharecropper, the pathetic victim of an oppressive system, and everyone who knew anything at all admitted, and had admitted for a long time. He was conscious that the two women and the little girl had stopped on the steps, but he pretended that he did not see them, and he did not lift his hose from the flooded flagstone so that they could pass. Instead, he turned toward the street, and with eyes carefully averted, he guided the stream of water so far up the flagstones that the group had to move quickly onto the porch once more. He covered his mouth with one hand to hide his amusement,
at their consternation. Mrs. Breedlove said patiently, "Leroy, will you kindly move that hose? We're going to my brother's car. We're late as it is." He pretended that he did not hear her. He wanted to prolong the scene to its limit. But Monica, losing her patience with him, called out, "Leroy, have you completely lost your senses this time?" He stared insolently at her, as though undecided what his next move should be. Then, regretfully, he shifted the hose so the water fell on the lawn. "I got work to do," he mumbled. "But I guess you don't know nothing about that now, do you? I haven't got no time to go bus riding and picnicking. I got plenty of work to do." He stood hand on hip, thinking how unjustly others used him. He didn't live in no big apartment house with servants to wait on him hand and foot, and he didn't have no nice automobile to ride around in. He didn't have nothing to ride in but an old broke down wreck that you couldn't even give to a junk man. He didn't have no fine clothes to wear neither. And when he was little, he didn't go to no private school that cost a pile of money and was always given picnics and frolics for its worthless pupils. No, sir. He walked to school himself, in all sorts of weather, too, and mostly without no shoes on his feet. But at that, he was a lot smarter than most of those dumbbells that had all the advantages in the world. He could make monkeys out of them dumbbells anytime he wanted to. He felt infinitely sorry for himself. No, sir. He didn't have nothing now, and he didn't have nothing when he was a boy about Rhoda's age. The world was in a plot to cheat him out of what was rightfully his, he thought. He watched as the women and the little girl picked their way across the dripping flagstones, but when they reached the sidewalk, he wheeled abruptly so that the hose lifted and the water splashed over the feet of the people he so deeply despised. Mrs. Breedlove's hand, with which had been on the door of the car, dropped with a dramatic suddenness. She closed her eyes, her face and neck turning a deep coral pink as she counted calmly to 10. Then, in her well-bred voice, she diagnosed Leroy's emotional condition in a detailed manner. In the past, she had thought of him as emotionally immature, obsessed, torn by irrational rages, and in a sense a bit on the constitutional psychopathic side. But now, after the demonstration she just witnessed, she wondered if her diagnosis hadn't been too mild. She thought now that he was definitely a schizophrenic with a well-defined paranoid overtone. And another thing, she had quite enough of his discourtesy and surliness, a feeling that the other tenants in the building enthusiastically shared. He might not know it, but it was due to her intervention that he now had a job. The other tenants, including her brother Emery, who was hardly a man to take liberties with, had been in favor of demanding his discharge, but she had pleaded for him, not because she condoned his actions, but because she considered him disturbed and hardly responsible for some of his irrational acts. Christine touched Mrs. Breedlove's sleeve with a mild, placating gesture. "He didn't mean to wet us," she said. "It was an accident. I'm sure it was." "He meant it," said Rhoda. "I know Leroy well." Mrs. Breedlove shook her shoulders in indignation. "It was no accident, dear Christine. I assure you, it was no accident." But already her anger was subsiding, and extending her hands tolerantly, she added, "It was deliberately done. The spiteful act of a neurotic child." "He meant to do it," said Rhoda. Her voice was cold and thoughtful, and she stared at Leroy with her round, calculating eyes, as though she could see into his quivering mind. Then, speaking directly to the man, she added, "You made up your mind to do it when we were standing on the steps. I was looking at you when you made up your mind to wet us." Then Leroy, knowing that he had gone too far this time, that his contempt and his fantasies of injustice had betrayed him into an action which his intelligence had not entirely sanctioned, became very humble and apologetic. He dropped to his knees on the wet pavement, and bending down, he took out his handkerchief, and as a token of his humility and surrender, he passed it over the shoes of Mrs. Breedlove and her guest. Mrs. Penmark pulled back quickly, as though embarrassed, and said, "Oh, please. Oh, no, please." Monica opened the door of her car. Her anger was gone now, and already ashamed of her outburst, she sighed ruefully and said, "Oh, very well, but my patience has a limit, and you may as well realize it." Leroy crumpled the handkerchief he had used and threw it into the street. He stood erect, feeling a sense of power returning, a knowledge that he could handle the situation or any other that arose. That good-looking Mrs. Penmark, that dizzy blonde, didn't know what it was all about. She's too dumb, when you came right down to it, to understand his contempt for her. She was one of them soft, easy taken in ones that went around feeling sorry for people. She was one of the ones that was eaten up with kindness. You could do that one dirty trick, but instead of hitting back or hating the hell out of you, she'd feel guilty, instead thinking she must be the one that was wrong. He spat on the lawn, insolent and sure of himself once more. Now that Breedlove dame, that big-talking bitch, was something else. She'd feel in the wrong too, but for another reason. She thought she was so smart. She thought she knew everything there was to know. She thought there was nobody as tricky as she was. She'd feel guilty, all right, not because she was humble, but because she was so stuck on herself. She didn't expect other people to come up to her standards. It wasn't fair to expect ordinary people to be as delicate and fine and smart as she was. She'd feel bad, all right, when she thought things over, and to ease her conscience, she'd send her maid down with a $10 bill to pay him off for the things he had done to her. That one was really something. He picked up the hose again. The triumph would be his in the end this time, just as it had always been in the past with these dumbbells. Just wait and see, that's all. Just wait. And then Rhoda said, "You did it on purpose. I know the way you are. You knew you were going to do it all the time." There was no resentment in the child's face. There was not even disapproval. There was only a stubborn appraisal of his character that startled him. He knew then that the little girl understood him entirely, that nothing he could say or do, that none of the acts which misled others and got him his way with them would affect her at all. He turned away in confusion before the cold knowledge in her eyes, as though his weapons had failed him where she was concerned. And as the automobile pulled away from the curb and turned the corner, with the morning sunlight flashing for an instant on Mrs. Breedlove's extended, bejeweled hand, he said under his breath, not of Mrs. Breedlove, but of the child, "That bitch, that nasty little bitch. There's nothing I wouldn't put past her. That one would put a knife between your ribs and watch the blood spurt." Rhoda said softly, "Sometimes when Leroy is feeling mean, he says he's lost the key to the park gate and won't open it so the children can come in and play. He wants to make people wait and beg him to open it for them. Leroy is a very mean man, I think." Mrs. Breedlove's usual good humor was now completely restored, and she said, "I simply adore little Rhoda's twang." She touched the child's earlobe in affection. "It's such a wonderful twang. It's such a fascinating twang, my darling. Won't you teach it to me sometime?" Christine laughed softly, and touching her child's hand, she said, "With my shocking Midwestern twang and Kenneth's New England one, the poor child didn't have a chance, really." Leroy unscrewed the hose from its faucet and prepared to put it away in the basement, thinking, Nobody can put nothing over on Rhoda. I'll say that much for her. And nobody can put nothing over on me neither. I guess Rhoda and me are just alike. But in this, he was mistaken, as we shall see in time, for Rhoda was able to put into action the things that he could only turn over in his mind as fantasies. Chapter. So, Leroy is in the book the son of a sharecropper, but in the movie, oh gosh, he is just like this. He's insolent and he's resentful and he thinks the world owes him, and he does zoom. He knows that him and Rhoda are two of a kind to an extent. I don't think that he knows Rhoda as much as he thinks he does. Mrs. Breedlove is she likes to have philosophical discussions. So just the way that she was trying to boil down, like, what is it about Rhoda that I love so much? And I remember this, picture on my grandmother's wall of this charming little girl with a gap in her tooth, and maybe that's why. So I love Rhoda so much. So she's always trying to make connections. She does believe that no thought came out of anywhere and it has meaning. And we haven't heard from Kenneth yet, which is Rhoda's father. And Christine is, we're kind of laying the foundation for Christine here in the book, in the first chapter, Rhoda's mother. But I think you're going to see where Christine's even tone and the way that she looks at her daughter as being so neat and tidy and organized, and wondering, where did she get this from? Where did she get this personality from? You'll come to find out that Mrs. Penmark has her own deep fears and memories, and so it all starts to come together with Monica, being the type that wants to piece everything together as being part of your unconscious or subconscious mind. Nothing just enters your mind without a purpose or a past. So this was so interesting. And I will say that does the movie open up with them going to the picnic? I can't remember if they were on their way to the picnic, but the book is holding pretty true to the movie. And I can't wait for you guys to tell me what you think about chapter 1. What were your impressions of Mrs. Breedlove? We haven't met Emery yet, and of Christine, the mom, and of Rhoda. So I am so happy that this book we're doing it, and I am going to probably be reading more often than once a week. I'm probably going to, of course, give it to the members first, and then am I going to be able to do that? I think I'm going to do chapter 1. Members, I think I'm going to do chapter 1 where we all get it, so that if any of the subs are interested in the book and they want to do diamond painting like this, they can join the membership and get it early. But it won't be week to week. I'm going to finish this one up rather quickly, I believe. I believe that I would like to do more reading, and especially of the book, And then, before you know it, the holidays will be here, and John will be doing A Christmas Carol, hopefully, because I have that earmarked. And then October will be here, and he's going to be reading The Raven. So a lot going on. A lot. I will see you, as always, in the next one. Thank you so much for joining me for this Witch diamond painting, along with the first chapter of The Bad Seed. Have a good night. Bye.
I wish you guys could have heard half of what I heard going on. Oh! The commotion outside, the commotion next door, because everybody is getting ready for the game. And then John came in. I don't know if you saw him at some point standing here saying, come with me over to the Palladium. Let's go. I am not going anywhere near there. It is like mayhem. You know, it's the first game, you know, and it's just insane. Not that I would go anyway. You know, I got the game here on TV, so what do I have to go out for, you know? So he left, and I'm like, ugh, let me just get done as much as I can get done. My watch is dead. And then go into the reading. So I don't even know how I'm going to fit this. You know, I'm over here, I'm talking to you guys like this is the end of the video. I'm actually going to be reading, and I was like, oh, let me just get done some of this crescent moon. I want to turn this around so you guys can see it face forward, or maybe I'll put this at the end of the reading. My pen, oh, that's what I wanted to tell you guys. I am not used to using this, and the glue dot is all the way in there, and I'm like, I feel so bad having to pull this out in the middle of my diamond painting session, but I have to get the right tips in here. I just can't. I couldn't deal, and I'm like, I'm burning daylight here. Is anything going to go right today? Please, someone tell me that it's some kind of whacked out crazy moon that's happening, because I can't find my little lily pad. And then it's just been like one of those days. You'll see, I keep telling you, you'll see when you see my upload, because it was a vlog and I was really upset today and I was feeling overwhelmed, and I went out for a walk and I started to talk to you guys and I felt better. But it's just like, you know, it's one of those days where it's like, just go to bed. Just like call it a day. Just go to sleep. Just go to bed. But I don't want to, because I have things that I have to do, and things that I enjoy doing. And yeah, I seek to understand why everything is just going nuts today. So let me take these off. Thank you. It's one thing that went right. My little release papers were able to keep me from sticking my hand in the oh, I want to keep this out so I remember to go get my stuff. I'm going to bring it downstairs with me. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring it downstairs with me so that I can get one of my I have sets and sets and sets of placers, and get the right one in there. This is so pretty. I was like, oh, what is that on there? It's actually a piece of gold fleck in there. It is so pretty. And again, I'm going to be using this all during the winter, because this is the color of the eagles. Lucky me, there's a gold fleck in there. And I could see little baby gold flecks in there. It is so pretty. And I like the bumps. But this was just driving me. I should just trash this right now. I should just trash it, because it's like, you're not the one for me. Okay, so I had to washi tape my corner down because it kept moving. Okay, let's see what this looks like right side up. I want to see what this little girl looks like. There she is. There's her crescent moon. It's coming together. I got this corner done. And I know you guys were watching me. You're probably saying, in what direction is she diamond painting? Well, when I have a big hunk of all the same color, like I have here, this big hunk of color, I'm like, I start to make pictures and I start to make designs. It's like an Etch-a-Sketch. Make a smiley face. Just something to keep me occupied as I go on. Cute little crescent moon. And there's our girl. I did her face. I was up one night. I couldn't go to sleep. I was up till 5 a.m. and I said, I'm going to do her face. And there is so many colored drills in here. I swear to you, probably 3/4 of the drills are in her face. All different. There's like one of this color, one of this color, one of this color, one of this color. It's like, oh. But I know once I get her witch's hat on, it's all going to come together. I just needed a break. I needed a break from all the color blocking on the bottom. Even though I was having so much fun with it, I was like, okay, I'm like 823, 939, and 336 out. We need a break. And then now that I did a little bit of the crescent moon, and like, this is pretty much too. There's how many more colors in here. K, 2, an arrow, an M, an equal sign, a pyramid, another arrow, an H, something that looks like a half of a watermelon. So let's just call it 10 more colors are in this one little section. Here. Just right in here. 10 more colors are in here. So by that time I'll be like, I need my color blocking again. So I hope you're enjoying the book. I know I did. I read the first chapter before I read it to you guys. And I was like, I gotta read this like tonight. So he's out. I'm gonna go chill out downstairs, quiet, and read it and put it on top of, you'll see a little picture of me reading to you here with a commentary. Okay? I'm so excited. We're finally getting another book going. See you as always in the next one. Have a good one. Night, night.